Hi, this is just a brief review of how to multiply and divide rational expressions. We went through a few steps earlier of how to do that, and in this problem we will do the same thing. First we'll make sure it's written as multiplication, which this problem is. We're going to next factor, and then we'll cancel like factors. So already written as multiplication, check. So now we're going to factor. Always look for a GCF first, and I'm going to start with this part, and I'm going to notice there's no GCF in that numerator. However, if I factor it, I can see that there would be a 2x minus 1 times a 2x plus 1. And then I'm going to look at the denominator in that expression, and I realize that I could have an x minus 2 and an x plus 2. Again, make sure it's written as multiplication. Now, what multiplication allows you to do is really, you don't even have to put the multiplication sign in here. It's really just one gigantic fraction because, again, when you multiply fractions, you just multiply straight across. So this top part doesn't need to cancel at all or factor, and neither does the bottom or denominator of this. So it's just one gigantic multiplication problem, and again, because you multiply across, that's how you could write it. And now it says cancel like factors. So I would cancel out this factor, I would cancel out that factor, and my final answer then would just be 2x plus 1 divided by x plus 2. Okay, we're going to do another problem, and this problem is a little bit bigger. It has a division sign. So it says first, write as multiplication. So we know that when we are dividing fractions, the way that we handle them is we rewrite this as a multiplication by switching or writing the reciprocal, so flipping the second equation. So that is what I did first, write as multiplication, done. Now I'm going to factor. So I'm going to factor the numerator first. If I do that, I have x minus 2 times x plus 2. Now I'm going to factor the denominator. This will require me to use the AC method. So a times c is 4. B is negative 5. So I would write out all my factors of 4. So 1 times 4 and 2 times 2. If I need it to be negative, that means both of them would have to be negative. And so I see this is my two values, so x minus 1 and x minus 4. But that would not distribute back to my denominator, so I have to remember bottoms up. And in bottoms up, you divide by that leading coefficient, that 2. You try to simplify your fraction. I cannot, so this would be 2x minus 1. I can simplify the second one to x minus 2. So my denominator in this first fraction is 2x minus 1 times x minus 2. I'm multiplying, and again, as we said in that first problem, really multiplying just means you're multiplying straight across. So I'm going to factor the numerator. That would be 2x minus 1 and 2x plus 1. I know that because, again, anytime I multiply to a negative 1, I have to have a positive and a negative. And the only way to get to a 4x and have nothing in the middle is to have both of them be 2's. Now I'm going to factor this denominator. I'm going to have to use the AC method again. So AC, a negative 4. B is a negative 3. So I'm going to write out my factors of 4 again. But this time it has to be negative, so either have to have a negative 1 or I'd have to have a negative 4 or negative 2. And the only one that works would be this one. So I would have, again, x minus 4, x plus 1. But it doesn't distribute because I have to use my bottoms up. So divide both by 2. This first one simplifies to x minus 2. The second one, I bring that bottom up front. That's what we mean by bottoms up front. And so I have x minus 2 again on the bottom, and I have 2x plus 1. So now I'm going to go through and I'm going to cancel like factors. So I notice there's one of these on the bottom, I notice there's one on each there, and I notice those cancel. So my final answer is x plus 2 divided by x minus 2. And again, you could put parentheses around them, but you don't have to.